Hey, small group leaders. Hope you're having a great week. It's Wednesday afternoon. I'm in my prayer room. It's a beautiful day. I'm excited to share a couple thoughts with you. Let me tell you what we're going to talk about today. Today, we are talking about what makes a small group meeting successful. Now, I don't know if you, like me, have wrestled through the question. We have these people coming to this space, this time. We have a group of people. We're meeting consistently, hopefully. How can we facilitate an environment and position us for maximum impact and transformation in the lives of other people? If you've ever wondered that, maybe you're wrestling through that now. What we talked about last month, what we're talking about again today, and in fact what we're going to continue next month, these 3 videos are for you. I have seen enough groups at our church rise and fall, and it's largely in part to the small group leader's ability to do what we're talking about in these 3 videos consistently and to do it well. So it's very important. I actually watched the last month's video just a few minutes ago, and I said the phrase, "This is so important," probably like 50 times, and because it really, really is. So in fact, if you missed that video, it sure would mean a lot to me if you would go back and track it down and watch it. So critical, so important. Let's begin to jump into our content for today. This is in our small group leader training manual on page 6. We're going to talk about the second and the third key ingredient for what makes a small group meeting successful. If you don't have the training manual, you can find it on our website, nscbellingham.com, and find the small groups tab. Scroll all the way to the bottom of the page. There's going to be a link to our small group leader training manual, and you can follow along with me. So let's jump in. Number 2, the second key ingredient to what makes a small group meeting successful is an atmosphere of personal warmth. People who meet together and share the joys and struggles of everyday life bond with each other. Everyone needs a place where they feel safe, accepted, and loved. This sense of mutual care and warmth for one another makes the fellowship of group life enjoyable. So I want to share a quick thought on this. You and I as leaders, we have to own absolutely everything, which means that we have to take responsibility for everything. And we want to create an atmosphere of personal warmth, because that is the place where people can come and feel welcome, feel safe, and it's really an atmosphere of personal warmth is a prerequisite for me to open up and share any kind of vulnerable detail with my life. If the atmosphere isn't personal and warm, forget it. I'm shutting down. I'm not opening up. I feel awkward because this is super awkward. But if I'm being engaged by the people around me, that I know that people actually care for me, that they love me, they have my best in mind, that's what we're talking about here. Then I'm going to begin to open up, and that's where we can see transformation happen. But we as the leader, we have to take the primary place of responsibility and ownership to make sure that this happens. And attitude is so important. And you as the leader, what we have to realize is you are the greatest cultural agent in your small group. Which means that what you come in with, your attitude, your mindset, your excitement level, your passion, your love, that is the greatest influencer of culture. You as a leader have so much influence right off the bat, and it's important that we show up ready to love the person in front of us. Let me give you an example of what I mean by this. Attitudes always lead to actions, and all actions always affect relationships. So if I'm consistently as a leader coming to my group, I'm discouraged, I'm bummed out, I really don't even want to be there. Of course, I'm not going to tell anybody that, but that's just what I'm thinking. People are going to be able to tell that. We might think that we can hide that stuff, but we can't. They are going to be able to tell, and that is going to move the culture in an unhealthy direction. Whereas if I, as the leader, I'm going to come to group prayed up. I recognize what I'm doing is so important, and I'm ready to love the person in front of me. I'm ready to engage them. I'm ready to see how their week was going and really just invest in their lives. Then I can encourage everybody else to do that. And now we are moving very effectively towards creating an atmosphere of personal warmth. Most groups go through 4 stages as they develop an atmosphere of personal warmth. So let's talk through those 4 stages really quick. Number 1 is the trust building phase. This is the phase where we're just learning if we can actually trust each other. Who are all these people? Do you really actually care about me? Or, is this whole thing just kind of a joke? This is the trust building phase. We're trying to figure out if each other's legit. Trust is the currency of leadership. This is so critical for us to understand as leaders, which means that if I have this much trust for you in my life, you can impact and influence my life to this measure. But if I have this much trust for you in my life, you can impact and influence me to this measure. So little trust, little influence, little impact, a lot of trust, a lot of influence, a lot of impact. And this is the stage where we're just figuring out if we can trust each other. How we move through these stages, it requires a couple things: time, consistency, improved love. And as we are doing those things, as we're spending time together, as we're consistent with one another, and we're proving love, we are going to move through very quick through these 4 stages. Just a quick thought on these 4 stages while we're here. All groups go through these at different time frames. Obviously, we don't want to be in the trust building phase for months. This really should only be, a few weeks to establish, like, hey, we actually love each other. We're actually really here for each other. We care about one another, and we can move on. You really don't want to be in this phase for 6 months, but there really is no, we want you to be here for this amount of time, here for this amount of time. A lot of it is organic, but based on those 3 things: time, consistency, and love. Our ability to do that well is going to move us through, progress us well. So moving on to the second phase, here is the transparency phase. Now here is where we're going to begin to actually be transparent and vulnerable with each other. And that's really good. So you're going to start hearing people talk about stuff from their past. That's a great indicator that you guys are moving through the phases that you want your group moving through. And as we do that, we spend some time doing that. We're consistent with each other and we prove love. Again, we're going to move to the third phase, which is the truth-telling phase. To now, my mask is gone, baby, and you are going to see me for who I really am: the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is the boom stage. This is so important because right when we're there, we actually graduate out of that stage into the 4th stage, which is the healing, restoration, and personal growth stage. So when we can truth tell, when we can be real, we can really begin to get in each other's lives and get in those deepest, darkest, hardest places and love each other right where we're at. And that's where healing can take place. That's where restoration of relationships can take place. And that's where personal growth can happen. And just one more quick thought on this one. This has to do with our mission statement. Our mission statement as a church is to lead broken people to become spiritually powerful, transformed servants of Jesus. And a lot of times we can get connected with people and begin to see the brokenness and the dysfunction of their lives, and it actually becomes a repellent for us, which is it can be a very conscious decision, but for a lot of us it can be subconscious, to where it's like, wow, this person's messed up, I want to back off. But the first point of our mission statement, I think, is so critical for us as small group leaders, as leaders of our church community, because that's what you are, that's what you represent as a small group leader. The first portion of our mission statement is to lead broken people. We can't lead broken people if we can't get into the brokenness of their lives. So broken people aren't something to push away, but we're actually running towards them. We're running towards areas of brokenness and pain and hurt and loss, because that's the places that Jesus wants us to get to, and that's where transformation can happen. And so maybe you have that mindset consciously or subconsciously where you view certain people as too messed up. Here's my encouragement to us. I am so thankful that Jesus, when I was at my lowest and my worst, that's when he stepped in and proved love for me, showed me that he wasn't upset with me, and that's when everything completely changed. And we get to show that to the people that are connecting with our small group. So important. Number 3, the third key ingredient, moving right along here, in what makes a small group meeting successful, is an opportunity to tell my story. A small group is a place where we feel the safety and love to ask others to listen to our story. Personal vulnerability opens each other up for the Holy Spirit to work in the lives of group members. This is critical. An opportunity to tell my story. We want to make sure that we are giving people opportunity to share. And, like we talked about last month, that cannot happen if I, as the small group leader, am going to dominate conversation the whole time. It's just not going to happen. So to just maybe review a little bit from last month, we talked about, our kind of rule that we have, an 80-20 rule, where we're saying, hey, you know what, as a small group leader, I'm going to talk 20% of the time. I'm going to actually facilitate conversation. So this is a place where I'm going to lay my life down for my group members. I don't have a point to prove. I can recognize that healing, restoration, and personal growth is going to happen as other people share. So I'm going to talk 20% of the time. I'm going to frame the conversation by asking the small group questions and maybe stimulate the conversation every once in a while, move it in a direction. And but for the 80% of the time, I'm going to just encourage one another ministry and let other people speak, because that is the place again of transformation. So, people aren't going to be able to tell their story if I dominate. And here's 4 levels of communication really quick. The first level is the acknowledgement level. I'll bring you guys through this really quick. And this is just something for you to keep in mind with your people. Hopefully useful to say, okay, well, this is the phase that we're at. Let's maybe try to move to the next phase of communication. The first phase is the acknowledgement phase. And again, this is right out of your training manual. And so this is, the hi, how are you doing? I'm doing good. Yeah, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm doing good. Even though your life is a train wreck and you just had the worst week of your life. It's crazy. That's the acknowledgement level. Total fake, total front. I'll acknowledge you as a human being and we'll have kind of a surface level conversation, but that's about it. Second level of communication is the information level. This is when we're just dialoguing about information. So still not super deep, but we'll talk about small talk, weather. We'll talk about the weather, just like I did at the beginning of the video. Beautiful day out. Love the sun. Hey, here it's supposed to be nice this weekend. That kind of stuff. Or talk about something we saw in the news. But what's unique about this one is I'm not sharing any personal information, or I'm not sharing any feeling or emotion that I have tied to anything. The third stage of communication is the feeling or opinion level. Now we're starting to get a little bit deep here. This is where I'm sharing my opinion. I might talk about politics with you. I might talk about, what I think and how I feel about the news of something that happened, or what I think or how I feel about something going on in our church. So we're moving right along. Then the fourth stage, and again, this is the goal. This is where we want to get to, because this is where transformation happens. This is the share my needs and vulnerability level. So this is where, and again, the prerequisite is trust, and we earn trust by time and consistency and proved love. So when we do that over time, now, I'm going to be able to share my needs, and I'm going to be able to be vulnerable with you. And that's our goal for people. So, hey guys, really appreciate you. Love you. So thankful for you. I'm praying for you as you're leading your small groups. Next month, we're going to conclude with the last 2 key ingredients of what makes a small group meeting successful. And we'll see you soon.